Hey, general contractors, welcome to this episode of the Topping Off podcast, where we interview general contractors and those working alongside general contractors to grow the building industry. I'm Kevin Sterling of GC Sherpa, your host, and today we are joined by Avi Edelson of UpMark PDF. So, Avi, welcome to the show. And as a first question, we would like to get a little background on Avi. Tell us who you are and why you're here.
Yeah, well, actually, I should probably start off by saying, Kevin, I realized just a couple of days ago how long I've known you for. So our history goes back over 15 years. So we first met when we were both living and working in New York City. And it's kind of amazing now to look back how much time has passed since then and, to see everything that you've done, been part of your journey and seeing the businesses that you've launched. It's been really neat to see the different epochs of Kevin Sterling.
Well, likewise, we've shared a lot of that history. And just to clue people in, so we originally met working at a camping equipment store and then both launched businesses in the camping industry and reconnected through that. And then recently reconnected through the construction industry. So yeah, Avi and I go way back. He's good people.
Yeah, we've been tracking each other pretty closely, working in the outdoor industry for a number of years, and then both kind of serendipitously working in different parts of construction, which has
Hmm.
been pretty amazing. When I saw that you had launched GC Sherpa, I was like, oh my goodness. And you launched it almost around the same time that I launched my business. It's kind of, it was an interesting set of circumstances. But so to your question, so kind of my background, um, I've got kind of two separate projects going on currently at once. I run a bookkeeping firm specifically for general contractors. So I work as a outsourced bookkeeper, working with a number of general contractors really around the country at this point. Everything I do is remote. And the work has been really amazing, helping general contractors, builders uh, track, make better sense of, make better use of the numbers that their business is generating. And I work with some amazing builders and helping them to grow their business by giving them kind of better insights about what's going on inside of it.
Fantastic. And something that you've said previously, and we hear it a lot, is just that contractors are notorious for not knowing their numbers, especially the smaller ones that they're wearing a lot of hats in the business. And so that was originally why you kind of got into bookkeeping. If you could correct me if I'm wrong, but you had actually worked for a GC doing construction and kind of saw the operational gap. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, I was working for a large regional construction company in Western Massachusetts, and I was their operations manager. And I think this is pretty common too. This is not unique to them, but not having really good systems built around tracking expenses, tracking billable expenses, having a system to manage customer deposits, um, and having more kind of timely record keeping too. That's really critical if you have a business model that requires you to have billable expenses, making sure that those expenses are being recorded in a timely manner so they can be then billed to the client in a timely manner too. So I just noticed some inefficiencies, and it um, made me realize that there are opportunities to be able to improve how systems operate for general contractors. Construction is one of the most complicated industries that there is. And a lot of business owners, they start their business because they're incredibly competent, qualified, and gifted builder, but they might not have a background in finance, creating and managing budgets, doing all the day-to-day operational tasks that are required of general contractors. Also, all of the customer interaction, liaising with prospects. It's incredibly complex. And if the systems aren't built in to be able to manage all these different tasks, cracks start to develop.
Yeah,
And I think
sure.
this was a realization for me, which was the impetus for starting my bookkeeping firm, Contractors, which I've now been running for 2 years successfully. It's a great business. I work with some amazing clients, and I'm really looking forward to continuing to grow that business in the years ahead. I think there's such a need for it.
Yeah, terrific. I mean, I think something that we see on the marketing side is just everybody wants to grow their business. So that's sort of a general rule. But a lot of contractors don't understand that marketing can make you go really fast in the wrong direction if you don't have the foundation in place, knowing your numbers, having a grip on your finances, and really being operationally ready to expand. Otherwise, you can make an enormous mess. Um, so, co-constructors, it was sort of like your first iteration into your employment as an entrepreneur in the construction industry, and then that has yielded where we are today, which is UpMark PDF. So, if you would please give us kind of an intro about UpMark PDF and sort of what that was born out of.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I think it was a realization that you can only really have by doing some of the work itself. And this is specific to how general contractors manage expenses. And it doesn't really matter whether the expense they're receiving or the expense that they're making is going to be billable or not. Uh, Regardless of that, there's this aspect of construction, job costing, that you want to make sure that any expense that the business, that the construction company, excuse me, is incurring is being associated with some aspect of the business. Either it's a business expense or it's related to some project or job. And recording those expenses accurately is really important so that you can determine job profitability, of course, being number one, but also if you've got those expenses, you need to then pass on to your client or your customer, making sure they're tracked and made billable to that customer. That's incredibly complex process. Now, for a small business, a small builder, it might be one person who is receiving the bill from their vendor or sub, reviewing it and saying, this is for the Smith job. Oh, we're going to use cost code plumbing 12.02. And they're going to either mark up the bill themselves or they're just going to input it automatically into the accounting system. When it comes to larger construction companies, this problem becomes much more complex because usually the person who's reviewing the bill, it's usually a PDF-based document, reviewing the bill isn't the person who's inputting that bill, the details of it, into the accounting or project management software. That's someone else. That's the bookkeeper, that's the admin, that's the office assistant. These roles are usually separated. This is where the problems start to develop in terms of this part of the record-making process. How do you then share information from the project side, the site supervisor, the project manager, the business owner, to the person who's actually doing the data entry? Incredibly complex, and there really isn't a good system for this. There's no real software that exists for this specific problem. And so what a lot of businesses do is come up with their own workflow for it. The most basic version of this is the bill comes in as a PDF, someone then prints it off, piece of paper. They then hand a stack of pieces of paper to the site supervisor, the project manager, who then marks them up. Project Anderson Electric 14.02, and then they hand that stack back to the office admin. Obviously some problems with this, but it functions. The other version of it is that the bill then gets emailed to the site supervisor or the project manager, and then they open some text fields, either in Apple Preview, using Adobe, an Adobe product, and they'll enter some text fields saying project, sing project, cost code, plumbing, 12.02. And then they'll then email or put that document into a folder. So better than printing off, but still some major issues. For one is that you're having to work either from memory or from a project budget, maybe an Excel or a print off, what those cost codes are. Because oftentimes there's like many cost codes that need to be applied to any one bill, or there's many cost codes in the system. Other thing is if there's numbers associated with the projects, remembering what the numbers are, there's endless opportunities for misinput data or lost data or just delays in how information is shared with the accounting or the data management side of the company. So that was the for me the realization that there was a problem in need of a major solution.
Awesome. And is there a threshold where you feel like any scale of contracting company could use this? Did you build this for a certain size?
Yeah, so maybe I can describe what UpMark PDF is and how one uses it and some of the features involved. UpMark PDF is a online software, subscription-based software that aids in the process of marking up vendor and subcontractor bills and then sharing those bills with different members of the team, whether they're admin, a bookkeeper, um, an accountant. So maybe I'll describe quickly how the software is used and some of the features involved in that. So the bill comes in from a subcontractor or a vendor. The site supervisor then looks at the bill. They decide that we're going to mark it up. We're going to bring it into the accounting system. All they do is just drag it from their desktop and place it into UpMark PDF, which then you have a document viewer. You can see the bill exactly as it would look on your desktop if you opened it as a PDF. Then above that, there are a basically series of drop downs for project, cost code, terms, sales tax, if we're breaking out sales tax relative to cost codes, and other information about the bill. Use those drop downs to select whatever you want, and then you can just drop that, basically a small spreadsheet, as a stamp on top of your bill in this PDF viewer, which then can be shrunk, it can be expanded, it can be moved around. If there's not enough room on the bill for the stamp that makes it legible, you can add a blank page and put the stamp there. And then at that point, once everything is all set, you've got the right cost code, right project, happy with the sales tax, whatever, you can then export it immediately to your desktop, or you can email it from the app directly to your bookkeeper admin without having to open up Outlook or Gmail. It's an incredibly flexible system. And the benefits of this is that instead of working from a spreadsheet that lists the cost codes, projects, or from memory, we're all working from basically a database. UpMark PDF is a database where each organization, each builder can save their own unique set of cost codes, projects, sales tax rates, which are specific to each region, terms for vendors and subs, create their own custom lists with chart of accounts and others, and then be able to make sure that everyone on the team who uses UpMark PDF has access to the same lists. And becomes really powerful when you have, let me step back and say, oftentimes for a general contractor, especially if they're quite large, they produce a project budget that has its own kind of unique set of cost codes only used on that project. Now they have their own kind of global set of cost codes, but there might be a subset used for the Smith project and a slightly different subset used of cost codes used for the Sing project and so forth. And having to go through and locate the right cost codes to use for each of those projects can be kind of a challenge, making sure that whatever they've chosen is actually aligns with what's in the budget. UpMark PDF solves this problem because you can make your own custom list for each project cost code. So you can have a cost code list for the Anderson project, only what's in that project budget, another one for the Sing project, another one for the Smith project. So that makes it so that anyone who's marking up bills and they're looking for the cost codes related to plumbing or electric or drywall, for example, for that project, only see the cost codes for that project. So it reduces errors and makes it much easier to validate and reconcile the job costing against what was in the budget. It streamlines and helps collaboration across the entire organization because we're, again, all working from the same set of information. It's going to speed up, simplify, increase collaboration, improve communication for so many businesses. A lot of work, a lot of time went into building it. It's really going to change functionally how a lot of construction companies run, and it's going to speed up this entire process and make it more verifiable, which I think is one of the most important things.
Oh, that's wonderful. And um, by the time this episode comes out, UpMark PDF will be available for use. And have you used this with some of your co-constructor clients? And what's kind of like some of the early feedback if you've gotten some testers?
Yeah, the feedback has really been incredible. That a lot of businesses, they have a system, right? Every construction company, regardless of the scale, comes up with their own solution for this problem because the problem, the solution doesn't really exist as a software offering currently, well, up until now. And so every business comes up with their own way of handling this. And they're oftentimes very cumbersome, require a lot of moving parts, and verifying that nothing is incorrectly input becomes very complex. Doing demos with dozens of businesses at this point has indicated that the need maybe was even kind of larger than I thought it was, or the problem was more pronounced than I thought it was. In construction, we all have our own small window into the work we do based upon our own experience. But construction is incredibly varied and complex, and each business runs their systems their own way. And they've been doing it their own way and they've developed their own systems over the course of many years. So coming up with a solution to this problem and being able to show a builder, show an accountant, a bookkeeper, a slightly more streamlined way of doing it is kind of like one of those moments where the light bulb goes off. They're like, oh my goodness, this actually solves this problem that has been plaguing us for years, and it's only become more convoluted. UpMark PDF is the thing that really might help align the entire business around this specific problem, which is really critical. And I should say too, UpMark PDF isn't a replacement for any accounting software, any project management software, any accounts payable software. It exists totally separately and plays very well with all of them. I didn't want to develop a tool that was doing something that was already being done very well by another software. And accounting and project management software is very complex. I wanted to solve a relatively targeted problem with a relatively targeted solution that could be very simple to use, that anyone, regardless of their technical background, ability, comfort, can open up UpMark PDF and within 10 minutes, master it. That was the goal. And by iterating on it, and I mentioned to you, happy to do a demo for you, Kevin, or anyone, the demos they've done with individuals over the course of the past 5 months have provided some of the best insights on where the needs are. It's been a very iterative process for me where I've developed and shipped a number of features for demo and then done the demoing with various users and be like, this is fantastic. Be very cool if it also included this feature. And I was like, well, you know what? That's actually an excellent idea. Let me see if I can integrate that. So the iteration has happened over the course of these demos. And I think once it's actually fully live for public use, there is a feedback feature included. I'm sure I'm going to get some really good insights on how to make the product even better, even more versatile. And that's the goal, to continue to improve upon it, to make it the most flexible, useful, utilitarian tool that it can be.
And really speaking as someone who isn't in the accounting side of a construction business, in one of my demos that I did with you, I thought it to be incredibly easy to use. So I think people have a fear of change in general, and especially field staff doesn't feel like they might have time to really dig in and learn something new. But as an outsider, I thought it was incredibly simple. So what have you seen like from field staff? What is like the adoption rate? Like, are they figuring it out pretty quickly?
Well, currently, so it's not being used on a subscription basis by any company yet. I've been doing demos over the past few months. So that rollout's going to happen this next week, which I'm really excited about. But the feedback has been really incredible on just what it is and what it might do for the businesses that utilize it. But like I said, this is going to be, it's going to be a living, breathing tool. And as I continue to roll it out and get feedback from users, I'm sure I'll be adding more features to it that'll make it even more flexible. And one of the features that I got, one of the suggestions I got more recently was on the issue of, and I mentioned it previously, about the issue of being able to create easily individualized cost code lists for each project. And the feature of being able to add a custom list, a custom column to UpMark PDF has always existed. I didn't really realize initially how critical that is if you have a budget, or I should say a series of budgets with different cost codes. I didn't realize initially that that's incredibly important to be able to create individual lists for each set of cost codes for each project, so that people aren't digging around through the budget to figure out what cost codes are included for that project. Being able to make it really easy for whoever's using UpMark PDF to create that list, basically drag and drop, copy and paste lists, no like uploading CSV files, nothing like that. Create that list and be able to quickly pull it in to the UpMark PDF stamp. I'm calling it the UpMark, the spreadsheet that gets overlaid on top of the bill. Being able to really quickly bring that list into the software. It's only through those conversations that I realized how significant and how important certain features are. And you really just have to listen very closely to people when they're talking, and ask some follow-up questions. So I'm really very grateful to all the individuals I've been able to do demos with, because they've taken time out of their day to get pitched on a product that at the time wasn't available for sale, wasn't available for subscription. They just did it because they either knew me and were willing to help me out, or were looking to see what tools might be available for them in the future, without being sure whether the tool would actually, be birthed into existence. So I'm very incredibly appreciative for everyone who's demoed with me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Getting feedback on ideas, one confirms you're not crazy, you and me both, and then secondly, yeah, absolutely can guide some fantastic features in the project. Um, so again, we said by the time this episode's out, UpMark PDF is alive and available for demos to be booked. And what does kind of like your roadmap look like? To try and get this into the hands of contractors to add features. Like, tell us what the rest of 2026 looks like.
Well, I've launched UpMark PDF with a number of subscription tiers. So there is a free tier, and it's not like a time-based free tier. People can use it, for as long as they need. Of course, the functions and features are somewhat limited, but it gives users a chance to check it out and see if it might work for them. From there, I've got 2 paying tiers, and then an enterprise, like customized tier for maybe more large construction companies or commercial who might have a very large internal user base with a lot of site supervisors or project managers who might need to use the tool to mark up the bills for each of their projects. As far as the roadmap goes, it's being shipped fully functional this next week. Payment gateways with Stripe. So everything, Stripe is incredibly powerful for processing, very secure. So I've got great secure integration with Stripe. Everything is ready to go. And when a user begins their use of UpMark PDF for free, or they end up upgrading to one of the paid tiers, there's a very simple tool integrated that gives them a tour of the software that they can stop and start whenever they want. There's also, as I mentioned before, a feedback feature as well, so they can share with me insights about using UpMark PDF, both aspects about it that are great and things that they might want to see improved, or features they want to have added. And over the course of the year, I'll be shipping updates and improvements and expansion of features. But I think at the beginning, just making sure that the core functionality is where we need it to be, and it's serving the broadest use case possible. And I should say too that the use case really isn't specific just to construction, even though I am at this point, I built it with construction in mind, but construction isn't the only industry or sector that essentially job costs. Creative, and you job costs, you probably have expenses that you're incurring for your business that might need to be passed on to a client, or maybe you just want to record it for your own internal record keeping. Being able to simply mark up the bills you receive from your subs and your vendors and be able to share that with your accounting team becomes very helpful. So creative, professional services, not-for-profits, they do a lot of program costing. So even though I'm developing it specifically with construction in mind, the application is potentially quite a bit broader. So we'll see where it goes, and we'll see what the feedback is. But my motivation and the motivation behind the other businesses that I've launched and run is that if you're in the world and you are seeing problems, inefficiencies, functional problems that you want to solve, and you like to ideate, you like to come up with ideas, then building either software, tools, businesses to solve that problem is incredibly exciting. And for me, with co-constructors solving the problem or helping to solve the problem for a certain small subset of individuals, helping to get their books aligned has been incredibly rewarding for me. And then now being able to roll out a software solution that might be able to help businesses in places where I've never even been around the country and potentially outside of the US, which is conceptually incredibly rewarding for me. I love solving problems, and I love helping people solve the problems that they face, they experience in their business on a daily basis, maybe even on an hourly basis when it comes to marking up bills. This is incredibly rewarding for me, and I am giddy with excitement.
Well, Avi, thank you very much for being here. So hopefully you've whet the appetite of a lot of contractors listening to this who are going to say, it's time for us to rein in the idea of wild cost controls. So where can they find UpMark PDF, and what would you recommend that they do?
Yeah, so where anyone can go to upmarkpdf.com and check out the landing page. And there is a excellent description of what UpMark PDF is, some images of upmarked bills, and all the different functions that they're included in UpMark PDF. They can schedule a demo there with me, and they can just go right over to the app from there, the software, create their own free account, and start using it today or whenever this launches.
Yeah.
They can start using it whenever they want, and they can create their own cost code list, one custom list, upload their own sales tax rates, and then use the feature, the tour feature, to give them a sense of, of how it works. So yeah, I would suggest everyone go to, if they're interested in learning more, go to upmarkpdf.com.
Awesome. And I'm not going to let you off the hook on my usual question. So, this is the Topping Off podcast, where usually builders have a topping off ceremony when the structure is built. So, you're not building structures, but I'm just curious, do you have any kind of like celebratory ritual that you like when you kind of like hit a milestone?
Well, I am perennially bad at celebrating milestones because I'm always like, well, that's done, on to the next one. But I think when I get my first paid subscriber
Mhm.
for UpMark PDF, which is, as soon as it launches, I'm sure that the folks who've been waiting are going to sign up. I'm going to celebrate with probably a burger and a beer,
There you
for
go.
sure, for sure. I mean, it's taken a long time to develop the software, and having to go back and rethink some aspects of it. It's been a lot of work, while at the same time running my bookkeeping firm and all the day-to-day things that we do, I have a family, having a child. So it's been a lot of work to get here, a lot of long nights and weekends of a lot of work. So I'm incredibly excited to get it out, and I will certainly be celebrating in some fashion when it does.
Yeah, that's awesome, Avi. So, again, thank you. And if you enjoyed this episode of the Topping Off podcast, we invite you to rate, like, and subscribe. Share it with your friends. We know there are contractors out there who need to control their costs, and so we hope that UpMark PDF is a great tool for you to do. So check it out. So signing off for this episode of the Topping Off podcast, Kevin Sterling with GC Sherpa. We'll see you at the top.